Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Racing with Ryan podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Stevens, and I cannot believe I'm starting out the show this way. As you all know, the NASCAR and racing community has lost somebody who is irreplaceable. Somebody who you love to hate or you love to root for. Somebody who is a racer at heart. Somebody who had a hand in the current generation of racers that we have racing with us on Sundays and throughout all of the national series. And of course, had a young son who looked to work his way up the ranks to become the next generation. Of course, we're talking about Kyle Busch. As I was editing last week's show, I sat in a Chick-fil-A dining room while my daughter played in utter disbelief, trying to edit last week's show to get it out to you guys. After we had a wonderful interview with William Hindman, building all the hype to Hell on Wheels at Orlando, getting ready for what's supposed to be a very fun Memorial Day weekend of racing, we all had our hearts ripped out. The sudden and tragic passing of Kyle Busch is not something I expected to ever get on here and talk about in this way. We expected Kyle Busch to race for another 5-6 years in Cup and then maybe go to trucks and still be around the sport. And who knows, get back into team ownership, be a mentor, be part of one of the current teams and watch his son rise up through the ranks as he lives happily ever after. And instead, all of that is gone. It's been taken. He's been taken from his family. We've lost one of the best to ever do it. And that's coming from somebody who, as you know, I was not a big Kyle Busch fan. If you listened to last week's show, I was not too happy that he won the truck race. And, hopefully everybody understands that was recorded well before we knew anything was really wrong. It's one of the most tragic things that I could imagine happening. I mean, I was like 11 years old when Dale Earnhardt passed, but that still hurt. It crushed me as a young kid who was big into racing, to see it happen live, to live through the aftermath of that, and to understand the importance of what Dale meant to NASCAR and the racing community. It's the same for Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is one of the most winning drivers of all time, one of the best to ever do it. And he's no longer with us. And it came as an absolute shock. Honestly, when I heard he was sick and reading all those things and hearing the radio stuff at Watkins Glen, yeah, I probably heard about that, saw the clip and brushed it off. Like, hey, we all get coughs. My kid brings home a cough every 2 or 3 weeks from school. And then sometimes I get it and I battle through it. And a week later, it goes away. And I'm stubborn anyway. That's my mentality as well. This stinks for a little while. It'll go away. We'll all continue on with our lives. Sometimes, though, you got to listen to your body, Knowing what we know about Kyle Busch, almost a week later, it sounds like he'd been dealing with pneumonia, what turned out to be pneumonia. To him, probably just an annoying cough, something he just has to get through with his busy and hectic life. And, it would get better. He's only 41 years old. It's not really, at that age, you don't really worry about these things causing other issues. And, when I think about it, I'm almost 38, so I'm only a few years behind him. I mean, it just shows you how quickly things can change, how quickly things can go wrong, how we need to take a moment and think not just about taking care of ourselves for ourselves, but for those that care about us and for our families and those that matter close to us. Because I'll tell you, even from afar, this Kyle Busch thing has affected me. I'll tell you, Thursday night, I felt lost. Like, really? How does this happen? How in the world how is this even real? I mean, it was a shock. To learn about the cough at Watkins Glen and how he wasn't feeling great. And you just think, well, he's under the weather. And then, he came to Dover and he won the truck race and he was competing in the All-Star race. And nothing seemed, everyone's nitpicking his, post-race interview where he says, you got to appreciate them all because you never know when it's going to be the last one. Well, his career in a way is winding down, and he hasn't had the same success that he enjoyed in the 2010s, late 2000s. He hasn't had that in a while. And I just think that was like, hey, my last cup win may have already come. It's nice to go get some more wins wherever I can get them. And as much as that annoyed me, he's right, Every race car driver wants to win whatever race they're in, right? And that was the thing about Kyle Busch. The man wanted to win. He was not happy with second. He was not happy when the race didn't go his way. But, man, would he make your life miserable on his way to going to victory lane. The guy can't tell you how many Sundays I sat frustrated. I remember being right here in this room that I'm recording in. I didn't have YouTube TV at the time, so I was in here on the internet, and I was bootleg watching the Chicago race that he and Larson dueled it out for. And Larson hadn't won that year, and Kyle Larson wasn't the Kyle Larson we know of right now. Larson was tracking him down and went for the pass, and then Busch wrecked him, and I was so mad. I was like, I'm looking at the corner of the room I went and stomped around in to be mad about. That's what Kyle Busch was to me. He was that villain. He was that villain that would ruin my day when he won. But he was that villain to where when he had a bad day and my drivers had a good day, it made it oh so much sweeter. And that's what sports is to me. I have my teams, I have my drivers that I like and that I dislike. And when the teams that I dislike don't win, am I happy? And when my teams that I like win, which is rare, I'm happy. And that, to me, is what fuels me. That's what makes me want to watch. It's what keeps me invested. Kyle Busch, unfortunately, landed on the villain side when it came to racing. And I had always pretty much felt like that about him, especially when in 2008, when he went over to Toyota and started winning all the races, and it started to annoy me. 2008 was such an annoying year. Between him and Johnson, who I already couldn't stand, and Edwards being annoying. It's just that's where he landed for me. And I appreciate Kyle Busch, the person, and I appreciate his legacy now, which is shocking to think about the fact that those words just came out of my mouth, not because I was not a fan, but because we're even talking about this, right? So to say that part of what made my Sunday so entertaining was having that villain who in this arc right now was struggling. Boy, was it nice to look up on the pylon and see the 8 running 20th every week. It was nice because for so long, he was up first, second, third, going for the win, winning 7-8 races a year and driving me absolutely insane. But man, when he didn't win and he had one of his Kyle Busch outbursts, boy, was that entertainment. And that, to me, is what makes sports so fun. People say to me, I'll meet people, I'm not interested in sports. Why would you even want to sit around all day and watch sports? Well, because I find a way to invest in it. And Kyle Busch made that investment worthwhile, even though I wasn't a fan. And now that we've lost him, there's an emptiness to Sundays, just like in 2001 after Earnhardt passed away. And it was weird to be 11, whatever years old and be a big NASCAR fan who did not like Dale Earnhardt. I feel like I'm living it all over again, and now with Kyle Busch. The thing about Dale, there was a crash. There was a tangible moment that we all saw, and we all got the results, and we were shocked, and we were heartbroken, but we could wrap our heads around it. This one was so shocking and so sudden. It didn't happen on the racetrack. It didn't happen on camera for anybody to look at and be like, oh, I understand. We don't understand this. We have the medical reports now. We have the explanation, but we don't understand it. How does a guy go from winning a race on Friday evening to competing in the NASCAR All-Star race on Sunday to making appearances Monday, Tuesday, and going to work just like normal on Wednesday, only to have an episode and then whenever in the timeline, not wake up? When you read that first message on Thursday that Kyle Busch was dealing with an illness and would not be able to compete, you probably thought something along the lines of, wow, that's shocking. I hope he's all right. That's not good for his chase hopes. He's probably not going to make it if he misses a race or more. That's probably it for Kyle, but he'll be back. That's what I thought. So, yeah, there was a slight tinge of concern. And then you go onto the forums and the Reddits and the X's, Twitters, Facebooks, and you see everybody's opinions. And then you see some things like, pray for him. He's going to need it, from a credible source on Twitter. And I'm like, man. And then, everybody nitpicking the language of the press release. And it's like, I think they're just saying, like, it's legit that he's going to be out for this weekend. It's not just some cold and we're keeping it. Like, he's legit not able to, he needs to be taken care of. And you know what? If there's anything we learn from this, take care of yourselves, please. 5 years ago, I would probably sit right here in this microphone and be like, I don't care. Something happens to me, I don't care. Not that I want anything to happen to me, but I was in a place in my life where I felt like, aside from my immediate family, which I love to death and know that they feel the same, I didn't feel like anyone even cared. But now my life has changed so much that I don't want anything to happen to me because I know how it would affect those around me. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is I feel like, given the circumstances of all this, and basically Busch having pneumonia and then going septic and dying of sepsis, which if you look that up, it's a real scary thing. Which I'll be honest with you, I've heard of it before, but I had to go look it up, and I'm like, how does this correlate? How is this even happening? And it still doesn't. I mean, it's I've read up on it, but it's just still like, how? And I think that this could have been prevented. And here's what I think, and this is not to point blame or throw shade on any of it, but I feel like Kyle, being so invested in his son's upcoming career and his son's racing and his family's businesses and the things that he has going on in his racing career, that he's always so go, go, go. He's always got somewhere to be. He's always got something going on. Got to make it to this track for Brexton. Got to make this appearance for my wife and what she has going on. And got to make this appearance for the NASCAR team. And I got to be at the shop. Got to be at the simulators. Oh, Brexton's got another race. Got to be there. Go, go, go. Oh, hey, it's NASCAR weekend. I've got to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes when we get busy, we put things off that we feel are just like, oh, I can deal with this. I can do it. It's like the brakes on my car. Like, I'm still stopping at stop signs, but I can tell that it's taking me a little bit longer. I need to get new brakes. They're squealing. They're making noise, but I put it off and put it off and put it off. Luckily, didn't wait for something bad to happen and finally took it in. But the point is, I waited too long. I did. Got it fixed, and I need to take them back again because I don't think they did a good job. But anyway, I just feel like Kyle had just so much going on in his life and preparing his son and doing all the things that he didn't stop to take a moment for himself. And he thought something simple, because we all deal with simple colds. We've all made it through COVID. We've all, felt down and crappy and I just think he didn't stop to take a moment for himself, or that he wasn't able to stop and take a moment for himself. And then life shows just how fragile it is, how lucky we all are to be alive. I mean, if you think about it, the chances of us being who we are, one in a fraction, But at the same token, we could all wake up one day and not be here. We could all walk out our front door for the last time and not even know it. Anytime we get in the car, anytime we put ourselves in a situation to where there's a little bit of danger involved, the little bit of danger could be all it takes. And sometimes, if we don't listen to our own bodies, then our own bodies can't even help us. My heart aches to sit here and talk about this. I'll tell you, chalk this up to another one of the podcasts not the show I was hoping to bring. But I have to talk about it. This is an important thing. Kyle Busch was an important character in the racing community, part of what made watching everything worth it for years and years and years. and now he's gone. He did not get to complete his story. And I think the next chapter was going to be something wild. We've lost one of the best things that NASCAR had to offer. His family now has to sit and wonder, his son, what's going to happen with his career? Is he going to be the next Dale Jr.? Could very well be. I hope he wants to continue racing. I hope that he's not pressured to do anything he doesn't want to do. I just think about, that, and I think about his wife. Seeing them at the pre-race during the Coke 600 just broke my heart. Just sitting on the couch, I had my girlfriend and her kids over, and we turned it on just in time to see that. And we were in the middle of making food. And those bagpipes started playing. And I just, I had to say, I didn't know we were cutting onions. I feel others' pain. I feel others' emotions, and I look at what people go through, and it makes me feel a certain way. I'm an empathetic person, and I just can't even fathom what that family's going through. I've never lost a close relative. I've never lost a parent. I know that those days are closer than they've ever been. And I know my grandmother's not doing well. She's going through some stuff, and it sounded like she didn't have much time left, but it sounds like she's doing better. And, sometimes you just pray and you hope that things work out differently. And sometimes you get on the internet and you find out something horrible's happened. And it was just crazy. I knew that Kyle had the sickness and wasn't going to be in the race this week. And I had come home from work and had a little bit of time to sit down and play my drums. Something I get to do a couple of times a month. And I'm playing the drums, and I'm in a groove. And, I was checking my phone. I had been having conversations with my girlfriend. And, after a song would finish, I would check my phone. That's just, I'm addicted to the stupid thing, I picked up my phone and saw a text from Zach Miles, the gentleman I announce with occasionally at New Smyrna. And it said, "I cannot believe I'm texting you about Kyle being gone," or something along those lines. And I said, "Excuse me, what? That's not even possible. What? No way." And then my heart sinks. I go on I go on Reddit, I go on Facebook and see it's true. And not that I didn't believe Zach, but I need to see it from a Jeff Gluck or a Bob Pockris or a J-Ski or a this or. And then I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had things to do. So I continued on with my day, but I sat in emptiness and did the things I had to do. And now I start my podcast, which has a lot of exciting things to talk about, by the way, with this. And just to show my respect and have a little message behind what we've all experienced over the past week or so, since the last show came out. Life is precious. Life is sweet. And I just hope that everybody can make the most of their lives and get the most good out of it. Take care of yourself. And I'll end at this part of the show, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes here in just a minute, by saying, my Sundays will never be the same. I've lost a part of what drives me to follow this sport on a weekly basis. Even if that drive was to not see this certain car excel. And that is purely the racetrack, not the driver. Obviously, Kyle Busch came to New Smyrna in 2020 during COVID. That was the night that I screwed up my eyes and soaked my contacts in the wrong solution and screwed everything up for myself. And it was COVID, couldn't meet the guy. But hey, he came to our track and raced with us, and I appreciated it. Didn't like him, but I appreciated it, Didn't like the race car driver. But Sundays are forever changed. racing is forever changed. And unfortunately, we've had something taken from us that made stock car racing as a whole very, very entertaining. And now that's gone. And it's unfair. He does not get to finish his story. He does not get to watch his son start his story in the NASCAR ranks. He doesn't get to race against his son like he wanted to. And all of that's been taken. And it's not fair. Life is not fair. Life can be cruel. It can be tough. But we as humans, we have to be tougher. And I think we all can look at something like this, and I think we can look in the mirror and say we should be better. Because we just don't know when our last moment or our friend's last moment, coworker, family member, we just never know when it can be taken from us. I want to send my condolences to the Busch family, Samantha and Brexton and his sister. Kurt, his mom and dad, everybody that was close to him, the race team, Richard Childress. My goodness, Richard's going through this again. I know that there's no way to make it not hurt, but even for it to take up so much time on a podcast like this, I hope that listening to this doesn't bring you down, but I needed to be able to get on here and get my thoughts out there because it's affected me. If it didn't, what kind of race fan am I, Man, we've lost a champion, a hero, a future Hall of Famer, somebody that was going to do a lot of good for the sport of NASCAR for years to come. And now I hope Brexton is able to continue with his drive and determination to be just as good as his dad, if not better. And that's something we still get to look forward to. So with all that said, again, my condolences to the Busch family. Heartbreaking, tragic. I hope in my lifetime something like this doesn't happen again because it's tough. So rest in peace, Rowdy. Kyle Busch will never be forgotten. He'll make the Hall of Fame when his turn comes up. He'll instantly be in when he's on the ballot there, and rightfully so. Well, give everybody a moment to, we got to transition from the somber to what was a fun weekend. I had the privilege of announcing Hell on Wheels, and I do want to talk about that. I'm going to say right now this week, with Memorial Day and work and other things going on, I have not been able to find the full results. I don't have them pulled up in front of me. Maybe I can find them on Race Pass or Race Monitor. I will check that. We are going to talk about Hell on Wheels today from Orlando Speedworld, how nice it was to be back at that facility. Running oval stock car racing, like real stock car racing. That was a lot of fun. We are going to talk about I do have Hell on Wheels. I can maybe pull up results from here, so I'll have a little bit better analysis. I was going to talk about the Coke 600 weekend at Charlotte, Indy 500. Maybe not as in-depth as usual, but we are going to touch on that, and we'll do the Racing with Ryan podcast, Fantasy League stuff, and, of course, the 16. The segment of the 16 is important this week. A lot of movement there. And I think we got a lot more people to be worried about now than we did just last week. So before we get into all of that, I want to thank our sponsors. Paramount Medical Billing, the anchor sponsor of the show, along with F&F Racing, Do All Lawn and Tree. We also thank Ken Copley in the Splish and Splash swim program for their support. Thank you guys for listening. Let's talk about the racing that went down. First of all, Orlando Speedworld. How cool was it to see trucks and Crown Vics and Pure Stocks tearing it up around the Speedway? We've seen enduro racing and bus racing over the past several years with all the crash and bash events. And I call them that just to lump all the different sanctionings, into the same typing of event, not to be disrespectful, but just so everybody knows what I'm talking about. Man, I'll tell you, it was so cool. That truck race was so good. Having 4, 5, 6 trucks, tailgate to tailgate for much of the race, all trying to find a way around George Gorham. The pure stock race was, hard racing, some dirty racing, some crashes, some torn up fenders. And the Crown Vic race was pure pandemonium. That looked like a crash and bash style event. That looked like an enduro. That was wild. But man, the racing was so cool. I think, I didn't get to watch a ton of Orlando growing up. I would get dropped off there by my mom occasionally. She'd let me go out to the races and come back and pick me up. What a great mom I had to be willing to do that. But anyway, and I haven't seen much competitive stock car racing there recently that I can remember. I went to after my high school graduation, my dad came down from Vermont and I said, Dad, there's a big race in Orlando when we're done with graduation, which I didn't want to go to. My mom made me go because I'm not big on that kind of stuff. I'm like, Dad, after we're done, there's a big race. We can go to Speedworld. And I'll tell you, it took forever for us to get out of the parking garage. We get home, me and my dad get back in the car and we rush up the road and we went and enjoyed, I think it was a Bright House Challenge late model race. And I think there was 20, 25 cars. And I don't remember anything about the race, but I just remember it was cool. But now I can sit here on this podcast and say I watched some very good competitive racing. And man, oh man, the state of Florida, how did we lose weekly racing at Orlando? God, it was so good. It was fun to watch, guys. It was incredible racing. The truck race, just watching Daniel Webster run the high line in 1 and 2 and the low lane in 3 and 4 and searching around for grip on the worn out racing surface that had a huge dip in turn 1, separations in the seams, plants trying to grow through the cracks. I mean, the place is worn out. And boy, did it make for some fun racing. Just the speeds, the momentum, the apron of the racetrack being so inviting. It just weekly racing or bi-weekly racing, like a championship season for sportsman trucks, super stocks, pure stocks, mini stocks, stuff like that. You get 5 or 6 good divisions and you're on a weekly program. Even if it's like, here, we're having a season. It's a 15-race season. We're going to run a 15-week season, and we're going to have a season. How have we let that slip through the cracks? Literally, we've let that place slip through the cracks of time and sit abandoned. And it is just mind-blowing that we've let that happen. But that's where I got to give credit to William Hindman and all those guys, the E&H car crushing guys, everybody that had a hand in putting that show on. I mean, listen, I know there was hiccups. I knew there were going to be hiccups. Listen, my night was not easy. It was not easy at all. It was frustrating, but not because of anything that anybody did. It was just the stuff we had to work with was not ideal. And I'll get into that in a moment. But William Hindman, I haven't reached out personally. I don't want to bug him. I'm the kind of person who does not like to bug people. That's why I couldn't make it in sales. He did a phenomenal job, and he had so much that he was responsible for. And yeah, some things didn't go right. Yeah, the spectator gate opened on top of Nolan Mesa, tore his truck up. I don't know anything about what actually went down. I've read their posts, and I feel terrible for them because they're cool people. They had a bad experience. That sucks. It really does. Other people had a bad experience. I mean, a couple people got DQ'd for getting out of their cars in the Crown Vic race. It wasn't the perfect night. The flagman missed a lot of stuff. I'm not sure. Chris, I'm not picking on you if you listen to this, but you got to watch the whole track, brother. There are things happening on the other end of the racetrack, and the flagman's got his head staring at turn 3 the whole time. And you got the crowd. The crowd's trying to race direct for him, and, there were certain things that could have been better on different aspects of how the program went and how the races unfolded. But for a promotion, if you will, Hell on Wheels, that does crash and bash type stuff, when you have to sit in there and actually, race direct, it's a different animal. And I think William did a good job. There's just a couple things, you get the iron out. You took the clothes out of the dryer, they sat in there too long. Okay, now we got to iron them out. But I think this has legs now to start standing on its own, start walking a little bit. So that's kind of my big takeaway from it is, hey, it wasn't perfect, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. And it was amazing to see cars ripping around that speedway. It's a shame we're not seeing it on a regular basis. So the state of Florida has been done a disservice by not having that place open on some kind of stock car season. I'm not saying you got to run every week. You do a Thunder Road thing and run 15 to 16 weeks, 17 weeks a year. Make it worthwhile and make the most of it. But, damn, it was a lot of fun. So the frustrating part for me is I've worked several Crash-O-Ramas and Hell on Wheels events and the little Sunday fun day that we had. And I'll tell you, we've had the same junky PA equipment that the people that run the place tell me is fine. It works just fine. It doesn't work just fine. I remember being at a Tour of Destruction event with my friends back years ago, and the announcer would cut out every little bit. And I'm like, what is happening up there? Well, the first time I worked up there, I realized what was happening up there. It's what had happened at New Smyrna during World Series a couple of years ago, during the Red Eye a few years ago when we had PA issues. The amp is burnt out. And when I say the amp is burnt out, something in the cooling facility, every machine gets hot as it produces and works. It's got fans in it, to keep the machine cool. And all these machines, given how expensive they are, they have fail safes. So when they get too hot, they shut themselves down to prevent catastrophic damage. That's just how they're built. So when the cooling system in the amp stops working for whatever reason, it causes the system to run warm, and then when it gets to a certain temperature, it turns itself off. I've had experience with this several times in my career. New Smyrna now and Orlando. But every time I worked at Orlando, it's the same stuff. I tell the people in charge very respectfully, hey, this thing, we'll power through tonight. That's what we have. But man, this needs to be replaced. I'm like, you replace this, the microphones could be better, the sound system could be better. But without a working amplifier, the night, it's tough. Because me being able to talk for only about 2 to 2.5 minutes every time without it shutting down, especially when the sun was out and beating down on it, God, it was struggling. If you were listening to qualifying, my goodness, that was rough, and I apologize. Also didn't have internet, couldn't play music. The auxiliary cord was fried anyway. That's what caused us to have catastrophic audio issues during the Crown Vic race. That thing was fried and sending terrible current signal through, which luckily once I took that out of the board, it fixed itself and got our audio back. But I dealt with audio problems, which makes the show tougher to do because you're not fully engaged in the show. You got one eye on the equipment, wondering if you're working or not, wondering if the message you're trying to deliver is actually being heard. Yes, it was all on Speedway video, but when you're in the middle of a sentence and all of a sudden you're saying, all right, folks, just want to let you know that, and it cuts off and they can't hear you. And it does that every 2 minutes. We had a really nice gentleman, Big Country, I think his name was, who was going to sing the national anthem. And we're trying to do a sound test. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm going to tell you right now, this thing is not working very well. And you maybe will have 1.5 minutes to get your song. And he's like, no, I need longer than that. I'm like, and you'll probably have to do it up in the grandstands because the range of the microphones isn't very good. And there's nothing I can do about that. And he probably thinks I was trying to be difficult. I wasn't. I was in such a good mood Saturday. Nothing could have ticked me off that day. There's a lot of things that tried, but I wouldn't let him. And I was just like, man, I want this guy to either sound good or, do what he's comfortable with, but I don't want him to be embarrassed. And he said he had it happen before. Last time he worked here, he had to deal with the same crap. And it cut out on him halfway through the song. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to do that again. So we lost our singer. I had to play the national anthem through my phone. So the PA side of things was very challenging. I thought at one point we were down and done for the night, but luckily we were able to. I just kept working at it. I didn't give up on it. I think if there's one thing that, if there's 10 things that you dislike about my delivery and my style, at least the one thing you can respect is that I don't give up. I could have just went and sat in the grandstands with my girlfriend and, put my arm around her and enjoy the night. But I decided to keep at it and keep working and got it usable as best we could and powered through, and I'm glad I did. So definitely not the show I wanted to deliver as far as my side of things, but it was the show I had to do to be able to have something, if that makes sense. So let's talk about the racing. Let me see if I can find the feature results. Yes, here we go. Pro Trucks A feature. That's not it. Pro Trucks A feature 1. Okay, so the Pro Truck race was pretty good. We started 15 trucks. We had 16 on the property. Nolan Mesa not able to start. I think there was another truck that had problems in practice the day before. This race was really good. But much like we've seen at New Smyrna over the past year and a half, the M5, which was the 51 in honor of Busch this weekend, so strong. George Gorham got out to the lead. But like I said, watching Daniel Webster run the high side and the high groove, we had some spins in this one. Boy, I'll tell you, the truck I think had something for George Gorham was the other 51 of Garrett Thompson. Garrett was leading out in front of Gorham for a while, and then the right front tire blew, and he hit the wall a ton. We had a couple of spins. At one point, Bray Holmes got into it with Brooke Ollie and spun out. Bray would actually come back to finish in fourth. So there's a lot of comers and goers in this race, but when Thompson had his issues, that pretty much handed things over to George Gorham Jr. He would pick up the win over Daniel Webster and Becca Monopoly. That was the top three. Bray Holmes was fourth, Brendan Fletcher fifth. Mike Kohut had a pretty good day in sixth. Seventh was Brooke Ollie. Dylan LeBeau was eighth. Ninth for Michael Gamache. And Ryan Hinote would round out the top 10. This is a really good mix of New Smyrna trucks and Bullring trucks. Orlando is kind of the perfect place for everybody to be able to bring their stuff out and go to town. So really cool to see the pro trucks. Like I said, it was an amazing race. There was 5 or 6 trucks throughout the entire event. There would be a little separation, then they'd all come back together. A little separation, they'd come back together. It was really, really fun to watch. Let's see. Crown Vic feature. Get the results on that. So this race was just absolute chaos. There was 29 of these things that started. We had a Ford Ranger pickup truck. We had a Dodge Magnum, both of which had problems like lap 4. Shawn Michaels in the pickup truck basically had his fuel cell or fuel line break in half and like dump fuel all over the speedway. That was a long delay. Then unfortunately, I believe it was Amy Gamache in the 85, hit the wall really hard on the back straightaway. That caused another delay in this race. But the excitement of the event, there was some really hard racing between Cody Benoit and Blake Clauser. And then for some reason, Cody just decided on a restart to spin Rich Clauser out. Cody and Blake had been going at it. And then Benoit just decided to run through Clauser coming off turn number 2 and dumped him down the back straightaway. Both those guys would stop. And this one when we were having peak audio problems. So the commentary is non-existent for this. And, I had one eye on that, one eye on PA trying to fix and all that stuff. Really tough situation. But Rich and Cody both got out of their cars and got themselves DQ'd and had a little exchange of words and then some extracurriculars in the pits, which I guess didn't lead to much except security being called. But yeah, that was pretty wild. But when the race would finish, just a lot of cautions, a lot of spins. Hoping Gamache is okay. It was a rough one for sure. But I think that's what everybody's come to expect when you put 30 Crown Vics on the speedway. Really cool story in this one besides the race winner, which was Blake Clauser, by the way. Blake just so good in anything he drives. But he would win I think this one went 49 laps. I think the flagman screwed up the count on this one too. I think the race ended a couple laps short. It says 41 laps here in Race Monitor, but that was tough too. That tower's tough. Blake Clauser gets the win, but the most impressive thing was Jayla Young, who did not qualify well, started back, I want to say 30th. Let's just say she started 30th, 28th. She drove all the way up to second. And it's such a good race. We were having PA issues and we were having time constraints and we were doing winter only, but Jayla came up and I said, Jayla, you want to do an interview? Give me just a second because we gave William Hindman Promoter of the Year and let him thank everybody and all that. And I said, Jayla, the mic was really starting to cut out at this point, and we brought her up to the booth and let her do an interview up there on the wired microphone. And boy, she drove a hell of a race. Very impressive. But again, Blake Clouser gets the win. Jaylee Young second. Joey Foote was third. Nico Garano fourth. Travis Sukup fifth. Dustin Higdon, quiet day but sixth. Ronnie Abney had problems qualifying but finished seventh. Sean Bailey was eighth. Jessica Coulter ninth. So the females having a good run. And then Greg Crow finished in the top 10 in the 89. So hell of a race, but hell of a crash fest. We also had the Pure Stock feature, which involved some more rough racing. We had 20 of these. Nice turnout for the Pure Stocks. Good mix of new Smyrna cars and other cars. It was like the War on 44, but at Orlando. We had some more hard racing this time between Blake Clouser again, who was trying to get the lead away from Jeff Dufresne, and Dufresne would kind of come down on Blake and put a bunch of marks on both cars. And I heard the Clouser family not too happy with Jeff, and Jeff was just like, yeah, we could talk about it later. I got a trophy to go pick up, and had a big wreck in this one when Dufresne and Clouser were getting into it. I guess it was Rich Clouser, if I'm not mistaken. And these results may not be correct. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. Here's the correct. Dufresne and Clouser were going, Blake Clouser were going for the lead, and Blake would have a tire go down, and he would collect Justin Reynolds driving the 89 for William Hindman, and destroy that machine. Cody Struble also caught up in this one. So this one was kind of rough. It was definitely a war of attrition out there for the super stocks as well. But when the checkered flag settled, Jeff Dufresne would get the big win here over Rich Clouser. Sammy Coghill was third, Rex Struble fourth, James Wright third. A quiet day, but he did get a top five. Bobby Hawley was the fast qualifier, but he was all over the place on the track and ended up sixth. Larry Welter was seventh, eighth for Eugene Tuminello. Rochelle Rudolph was ninth, and Blake Clouser, despite the crash, finished in the 10th position. So this was another wild one. All the racing, I'm telling you, the racing action was good enough to where that rain could have come and ruined the rest of the night. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention throughout this whole podcast so far that we did get rain at the perfect time. A little bit of sprinkles at the end of this one, a little bit of sprinkles for the ground pounders too, I think, but the heavy stuff didn't really come until it was enduro time, so that was fine. I feel like just after those three races, the Vicks, the Pure Stocks, the Pro Trucks, and listen, my recap doesn't do them justice, guys. Go watch it on Speedway Video if you missed out, because it was a fantastic show. That was worth the price of admission. That was worth all the frustration with the PA alone. And then real quick, the ground pounders, they had a feature as well. Just going to shout out the guys here. There's only 8 of them actually. So Art Koonsman wins the stock cars, Toby Smith wins the modifieds, and Frank Pelkey would win the sportsman. Also, shout out to Robert Piccolo, Scott Foe, Scott Booley, John Smith, Laurie Bonaparte, and Colin Smith for showing up and showing out for the ground pounders. They put on a good show. It's fun to watch. And then after all of that, we had the enduro race, which was, and I'm not going to go too in depth into these. I just want a few talking points, and we'll move on to the NASCAR portion of the show. I don't want to keep everybody in this forever. I know it's been long-winded tonight. Wildest enduro I've ever seen. They didn't stop it at all. There was a chicane on the back straightaway they all had to avoid. There was cars spinning and crashing. We had a pile of cars just stopped in what is normally stock car turn 1, and somebody, I think it was a crazy Cuban, just came through and obliterated one of the cars and went and roasted in the infield. I think Darren Holder was on fire for a bit. I don't even remember who won the race. It says the race went 37 laps. I think it went longer than that. I don't know for sure, but it says that Shane Langerfeld won the enduro over Shane Satoris. So it was wild. They started, according to Race Monitor, 48 cars, something like that, 45 give or take, which was incredible. The race was chaotic. It was wild. It was the perfect refresher after the serious stock car racing stuff, and it was raining. It was lightly sprinkling. So that was wild. Just one of the wildest enduros I've ever seen. That was a ton of fun. Then we had the skid car figure 8, which was just as it sounds, pure chaos. Yeah, I have no clue. I don't remember who won that. It's not on here, the results, and that's okay. And then we had the figure eight bus race, 23 laps, 14 buses, no wrecks, no, a lot of contact and a lot of wild moments. We had the fire truck pulling out onto the racetrack in the middle of the race for some reason, which the fire truck appeared to be on fire. That was bizarre. Also during the Enduro, before it started, the drivers tried to start it themselves, and William Hindman pulled his tractor on the track and was lucky to not get run over. That was scary. Again, just things to iron out, get everybody on the same page. The bus race was fun. It's a fun way to close it out. It was, unfortunately, the bus race was at the end, and it was late, so not everybody stuck around, but it was fun. I don't remember who won. It was a really good night. I hope this happens again. I hope I'm able to be part of it. Obviously, if they're all run on Saturday nights, I won't make all of them. My commitments are to the New Smyrna Speedway. Also, sorry to the New Smyrna Quarter Midget Association. They had a double header. I hated that I got double booked on this day, but I couldn't miss out on Orlando and being part of the stock car return there. And, working with William again. So I got up and went out and did the first half of the doubleheader, and I was able to get through the entire first half. I was biting my nails towards the end. I'm like, I really want to get through this, but I need time to get to Orlando. I still didn't have enough time to do everything I wanted to do when I got to Orlando. But, man, I'll tell you, Quarter Midgets was a lot of fun. Hate that I had to leave early, but we'll be back June 6th for the Dixie Shootout race and all for the rest of the season. Also very cool when I got to Orlando, just how many people I saw and stopped and talked to me and vice versa. To the fact where, I think I walked the pits one time before I had to go because I just kept running into great people. People from New Smyrna, people from other tracks that I don't get to see very often anymore, and stuff like that. It was really cool. Did the pit ride video with William, which was fun. It was such a cool experience, such a cool vibe, and I hope we get that back, man. I really do. Speaking of local racing, New Smyrna, of course, being off, but we return with Family Fun Night. This week we have the Sportsmen, we have the E-Mods. I'm going to try to remember all these. Bomber A's, Bomber B's, 602 Modifieds, and Mod Minis, and Spectator Racing, all for $5. Hopefully the weather holds off. Looks like it's going to be a rainy weekend, so maybe we can dodge the clouds and get some racing in. We'll see. But that was Hell on Wheels. Again, Speedway video was there, so if you want to go back and see all the mayhem and the craziness and make your own judgments, you can do that on YouTube, Speedway video. Search Hell on Wheels Orlando. It'll come right up. I just did it right now on my phone, and it's right there. So that was the local racing portion of the show. Let's go talk about the Coca Cola 600 and what was... excuse me, I'm starting to get tired. I started even later than I normally do today. Okay, so let's start with the weekend at Charlotte. Trucks supposed to run Friday night, got pushed all the way back to Sunday morning. Actually, had to be done by noon. I think it was contractual obligations with television, not so much with the racetrack, which sucks. But the long and short of it is they had so many wrecks during the race and so many long cautions, they did not get their full race in, and Lane Riggs would pick up the win. I will admit that I watched the race on YouTube TV on fast forward, so I only saw bits and pieces. I was just trying to get caught up before the 600 after the Indy 500, so I don't have a whole lot of detail, but congratulations to Lane Riggs. Xfinity race was a wet disaster. They started the race, it rained for 4 hours, then they finished. Big moment when a car blew a motor and put oil down on the racetrack, and all the leaders slipped and slide, and they would hit the wall and crash and bash. And Ross Chastain, the eventual winner, kind of like Jeff Burton back at Darlington back in 97, I think it was, when he hit the wall, but it rained, and he was able to hang on and win. Ross Chastain would get the win. Rain came 6 laps shy of the end of stage 2, and they just ran it out under caution to get to the end of the stage and then called the race. Listen, if the weekend hadn't already been so horrendous with the weather and having all the delays, I think they don't do that. I honestly think they would have found a better time to do this race, but I think they just had to get this in. And honestly, as much as I hate rain-shortened races and time-shortened races, I just feel like you have to do what you have to do to get through an event. And I mean, it's the same with the Coke 600. It ended abruptly. But the time of race was still 4 hours and 39 minutes. I feel like we still got a full Coke 600, even though it was rain shortened. So let's head over there and talk to that. Congratulations, Ross Chastain. At least you can win an Xfinity and run well there. Coke 600, man, this race it always delivers. Even this one with the weather still delivered in my mind. First stage, excuse me, very chaotic. 3 caution flags for cause. The first one on lap 35, the 21 of Barry went around. We had a big wreck. A couple laps later, Austin Cindric would spin out, and then poor Connor Zilic, who can't catch a break, he would spin on the bottom of the track and just KO the 2 cars. So those 2 cars were taken out. And then Chase Elliott, 30 laps later, all by himself, would spin out right at the end of the stage, and he would crash out for the day. First stage would go to Kyle Larson, who would actually get by Zane Smith on the pit stops. And I believe Larson won stage 1, right? Is that correct? Yes, it is. And then stage 2 went green all the way through. And it was won by Denny Hamlin. So Larson looked good. Hamlin looked good. Reddick, Briscoe, the Toyotas looked really strong. Then we got to stage 3. Had a big accident with Ross Chastain, who got tapped by the 47 of Stenhouse. Chastain kind of came off the bottom, and Stenhouse had momentum and hit him in the back, and Chastain lost it and wrecked. And then 3 laps later, another big one when Chase Briscoe would clip the 17 of Chris Buescher. Buescher would then clip Ryan Preece. Preece and Briscoe would then have a meeting of the minds on the back straightaway and wreck out and collect Josh Berry again. That would bring out the caution. We go back green with 16 laps to go. At this point in the race, Christopher Bell had established himself as the man to beat and was leading until we had a caution for rain. And Daniel Suarez at this point takes 2 tires. This is on lap 357. And that, yes, so when we went back to green, Suarez had the lead on 2 tires, trying to hold off Bell and Hamlin. They go into turns 3 and 4 about a lap or 2 after the restart. The 7's trying to hold on for dear life. He's sliding up the racetrack, and just as Hamlin, if this had gone green another 10 seconds, Hamlin's got the lead. But the caution comes out. They go back to the last scoring loop. Suarez hangs on. It's raining. It's late in the Coke 600. We don't know what's going to happen. There's lightning. It was actually the first thing was lightning. So we're thinking, man, we're going to have a 30-minute lightning hold. Suarez might win this thing. There was a moment where it looked like Shane Van Gisbergen might win if it rained at a certain time. He didn't get the rain because Bell had gotten back by him. And then Suarez in control here. Lightning, we're supposed to have a 30-minute lightning hold, but then they determine, it's moving away. We're in the clear. They go back racing again. Suarez, on a restart, has to hold off Hamlin and Bell, is able to do it again because Hamlin and Bell are bouncing off each other, and then it really started raining. Caution comes back out, and they pull him down pit road, and immediately, when they tell the drivers to get out, you see Suarez's crew chief in his ear, and you can basically see him saying, hey, they just called it. Suarez, at first is ecstatic and then emotional, obviously, with the weekend that we had losing Kyle Busch, and Suarez driving for Spire, where Kyle Busch won in the 7 truck last time out, and just Suarez used to drive for Kyle Busch Motorsports, and just there were so many connections this weekend. And Suarez being an unlikely winner of the race. Listen, he did not have the dominant car. He had an okay car, but the object of a race is to be the first car to the finish. And in NASCAR, after halfway, if we get weather, that first car to the finish might get there in unconventional ways. But when the checkered flag flew, Suarez was out there, had to earn it on 2 fierce restarts. 2 restarts at the end of the Coke 600, and Daniel Suarez held off some of the best in shootouts. Now, if either of those restarts goes a lap longer, he's not our winner. He's probably finishing to 8th. You know what I mean? But that wasn't the story. Suarez got the breaks, and this kind of stuff does not bother me. The object of racing is to get to the checkers first, and Suarez and crew found a way to do that. The other guys played by the same rules in the same weather, and the race ended at the same time for them. They didn't take a risk. Suarez did, and this time it paid off. Normally, for Suarez, that's the kind of thing that gets him a 30th place finish. But Daniel Suarez gets the biggest win of his career, his 3rd career win, first crown jewel. And it was a feel-good moment for a weekend that was kind of lackluster, with the weather, the circumstances leading into the weekend. By the way, Prime's coverage was phenomenal. Their opening tribute to Kyle Busch, like I said, it had me in tears. So, man, congratulations to Daniel Suarez. What a cool story that is, Mickey Mouse win or not. So, Suarez wins the Coke 600. By the way, did watch the... we'll give you notable finishers before we move on here. Suarez with the win. Second went to Christopher Bell. Denny Hamlin third. Then Tyler Reddick, the point leader, fourth. Kyle Larson fifth. So, I mean, those names that Suarez beat are pretty stout. Ty Gibbs had a good day in sixth. Ryan Blaney battled back from pit road issues to finish seventh. Eighth was Joey Logano. Ninth for William Byron. And Zane Smith with a top 10. Good run for him. He led 31 laps in the race, too, by the way. Shout out to a couple of these guys. Shane Van Gisbergen scored stage points in every stage. Should have got a top 10. Got shuffled on one of the late restarts back to 11th, so did not get the finish he deserved. Ricky Stenhouse also ran inside the top 10 much of the day. Got stage points in every stage. I think he was like 9th or 10th in each stage and finished 12th. Cole Custer, shout out to him. He was 16th. Alex Bowman, 17th. Corey Heim, 19th. Bubba Wallace, he got involved in a little dust-up early in the race, finished back in 22nd. Carson Osavar had pit problems. He finished 23rd. Most of these drivers had problems. Josh Berry, 29th. Catherine Legg doing the double, crashed out early at Indy, but was running at the finish of the Coke 600 in 31st. Austin Dillon would crash out. That was actually a crash that never got a caution. Ryan Preece involved in the crash with Briscoe. Ross Chastain crashed out, finished 35th. His chase hopes are all but dashed. Timmy Hill caught on fire. He was out. Then we talked about Chase Elliott, Austin Cindric, and Connor Zilic, who would get scored with a 39th place finish, rounding out your field. So an eventful Coke 600. Thought the racing was pretty good. I enjoyed what we got of this one. Wish we could have, seen a race not get affected by rain, but I'm satisfied with 373 laps, to be honest with you, and a satisfying enough winner for me to not go to bed too upset. So, real quick, before we jump over to the 16 and the fantasy to wrap up the show, I did watch the Indy 500. It was a fun race. So many lead changes. I will admit I spent the first half of the race cooking, so I was kind of to the barbecue grill, to the TV, to the grill, to the TV, to the oven, to the, preparing food. I got to watch it with my girlfriend's boys, Chase and Ryland. I asked if I could kidnap them for the day. Well, Tiffany had swim lessons. She joined us for the Coke 600 later. But me and the boys, we watched the Indy 500. They seemed to really enjoy it. When I was out flipping wings, I told them, hey, come let me know if something happened. And they were like, hey, there's a new leader. Hey, there's a new leader. Oh, there's somebody spun out. So they were my wingmen all day. It was really cool. Pun intended. Feel bad for David Malukas. Looked like he was going to win the race. And then Felix Rosenquist came out of nowhere off turn 4 down the front straightaway. Got that draft. Boy, that Indy package, just watching them draft on each other like that. Just really spectacular stuff. Great Indy 500. Loved it. Glad they got the race in. It was fun to watch. And congratulations to Felix Rosenquist. That's really all I've got on the Indy 500. No flips this year, by the way. All right, so let's do our segment of the 16 here. Let's see how everybody's doing in points now. Let you know the 16 drivers that are currently qualified for the chase. At the official halfway point of the regular season, we get 13 down, 13 to go before the chase is set. Tyler Reddick continues to show the way with 122-point lead over Denny Hamlin. Ryan Blaney, third in the standings. Ty Gibbs just having a great year. Got that first career win, sitting fourth in the points. Chase Elliott with the crash on Sunday dropped him down 2 spots to fifth. NASCAR no longer has the up and down position gain thing. They've just completely given up on that, by the way. But I know Chase dropped, even though he's got the 2 wins. Sixth in points, Kyle Larson. Highest driver without a victory this year. I'm sure he's going to have one or two coming before the start of the regular season. He is 234 points out of the lead, though. Chris Buescher is just, believe it or not, 1 point behind Kyle Larson. Who would have thought that? Imagine if Buescher hadn't wrecked. Buescher 7th. Christopher Bell with a good run. He gets the monkey off his back a little bit. He is 8th, still looking for that first win. In 9th, Carson Hocevar. If he can get his pit crew problems figured out, he's going to be a little bit better. But he's still 9th, comfortably in the chase right now. And then his teammate Daniel Suarez, the winner of the Coke 600, he is also inside the top 10. Feeling a lot better. He's been on the bubble for many of these segments, but in the top 10, he's got a little bit of a cushion now. So in 11th, Brad Keselowski. It just seems like he's 11th. 11th to 12th is Brad Keselowski eternally. William Byron continues to kind of struggle this year. He is 12th in points. He's any slip or slide for Byron, and we're talking about him on the bubble. That's scary. Bubba Wallace, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, I was sitting here saying, but whether you like it or not, he's going to make the chase. Well, now he's 13th. 13th out of 16. Got work to do. Shane Van Gisbergen with a good run. Could have used that top 10, but he's sitting 14th in the standings right now. Still 2 road courses to go. Still 2 more chances for him to optimize his point gain and try to keep himself in a chase spot. With the crash with these guys, Chase Briscoe now 15th and Ryan Preece 16th. Preece and Briscoe separated by 1 point. And then Preece has, 15 points on Austin Cindric, who crashed out. So Cindric 15 out, and then his teammate Joey Logano is 29 points out, something like that. So, 29 points for Logano in 18th. Allmendinger 19th, McDowell 20th. Those are guys that could make a run, but they got to start, they got to find a win somehow and get those bonus points. They got to start scoring stage points and find a win. One of these drivers between Briscoe and McDowell in 20th, they've got to find a win to really get themselves out of this scare zone. Speaking of the scare zone, I'm really concerned now zone. Gonna start with Ross Chastain in 23rd. He's had so many runs where it looks like he's having a good day, and then he crashes out or makes a mistake, speeds like he did at Texas. He's just thrown so many points away. Too many DNFs. Doesn't have race-winning speed. And to me, I think Ross Chastain is in the danger zone. I don't think he's going to make it. Austin Dillon, he's not looking too good. Other guys in the danger zone. Josh Berry, is he in the danger zone of losing his ride? He's 30th in points. Yikes. Of course, Alex Bowman, we talked about him this year. He is just, with the injuries, he's buried 32nd in points. Not the injury, but the race he had to sit out with vertigo. And then Connor Zilic, the full-time rookie on the tour, is 33rd in points. The only full-time drivers he's beating right now is Cole Custer and Cody Ware, as to be expected. So I would say those drivers are in trouble. I do notice that NASCAR has respectively taken Kyle Busch out of the point standings, because he'd be about, I think he'd be 26th or 27th. Obviously, he's got the points that he's got. He'll be in the record books, but NASCAR has taken him out of the running here. So, wild weekend in Charlotte. Wasn't I think Mother Nature was crying a little bit and got in the way of all 3. I think it's the first time ever Mother Nature has gotten in the way of all 3 races in a weekend. So pretty wild stuff, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So, hopping over now to the Racing with Ryan podcast Fantasy League. I want to see how we did. I'm going to make this quick. It's been a long show, so we're getting to the end of this thing here. Thank you guys for sticking with us again as I refresh the page here. New Smyrna in action this weekend with Family Fun Night. $5 to get in. You got Emod Superstock. Emod Sportsman, Mod Minis, Bomber A, Bomber B, 602 mods, and Spectator Racing all coming up. So let's see how we did at the Coca Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Congratulations to 8-Ball Racing picking up the big win this weekend. Staffordshire Motorsports 2nd, Pit Penguin 3rd, Obbs Trackhouse 4th, Zach's Dodge 5th, 76 Motorsports also tied for 5th, and it was Lost Highway Sim Racing 7th, 8th for Tyler Vickery, yours truly in 9th, and Cole Trickle Jr. tied with me in 9th. So not a good weekend for me after winning one a couple of weeks ago. Let me check the overall here again. Obbs Trackhouse continues to show the way with a 118-point lead over 8-Ball Racing now. Bob's Ford's 3rd, Cole Trickle 4th, 5th for Staffordshire Motorsports, and Zach's Dodge. Yours truly still hanging in 7th. I think I can still have a run at the top 5 before the season's out. Then Bomber 93, Richard Petty, and 76 Motorsports. Our top 10 competitors. NASCAR heading to Nashville this weekend. So it's a 1.5 like track, but it's not a 1.5 miles. So it's actually getting the boosted horsepower package that we saw at Darlington and Bristol, Martinsville. So it's going to be like a hybrid, kind of intermediate, 1.5 miles, but yet we get that beefed up horsepower package. So who knows? It's going to be a wild card race. The Nashville races have been entertaining. Obviously, we had the one that had like 23 overtimes a few years ago. That was a bit crazy that Joey Logano won. Well, we've had some pretty straightforward races here. I mean, go with your normal guys, your Larsons, your Hamlins. I think Hamlin's going to be tough to beat. I think you could start some of these fringe playoff guys. I think you want to stay away from Bubba this weekend. Stay away from Logano. Stay away from the Fords, except for Ryan Blaney. Ty Gibbs is a good play here. Your typical guys. You don't have to think too far outside the box here at Nashville. I think it'll be a good race. I think we're gonna have some mechanical stuff. I think we're gonna see blown tires. I think we're gonna see brakes become an issue with the extra horsepower. I know that the parts are getting better on this new car, and I just feel like every time they get something new, it just stresses the cars a little bit more. So I think I don't think we're gonna have like big wrecks, but I think we're gonna have pancakes into the wall with blown tires or mechanical problems, broken toe links, things like that. I think it'll be interesting. It's a night race. I think it starts at like 6 o'clock on Sunday, so it'll be a nice way to wind down your weekend. I think all 3 series are in it as well. So yeah, you can check that out. We'll be back next weekend, hopefully with a recap of the new Smyrna Speedway with Family Fun Night. If the weather cooperates, I know a lot of tracks are already canceling. I know Citrus is canceled. I think Showtime. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Cordial's canceled. A couple of the dirt tracks have canceled. Recording this on a Wednesday night. It's almost 11 o'clock. I am so tired. This has been it's been a good day, but it's been a tiring day. So that's what we'll talk about next weekend. Also, Thunder Road's Memorial Day Classic got postponed. Wasn't going to watch it because, I don't have Flow anymore. But yeah, that got postponed to like Father's Day weekend or something. So don't even have that to talk about, which is good because I'm out of steam. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you for letting me be serious for the first half of the show. I just think that needed to be said. I think Kyle needed to be honored. I think a lot of people are like, oh, Ryan hates Kyle Busch. He's not going to have anything nice to say. Well, I can hate the player, but I'm not going to hate the person, if that makes sense. So thank you, Kyle, for a great career. Thank you for all the entertaining moments and all the frustrating moments as well. NASCAR, like I said, will never be the same, but we'll be covering it nonetheless. Thank you all so very much for listening. Thank you to our sponsors, including Paramount Medical Billing, F&F Racing, Do All Lawn and Tree, Ken Copley in the Splish and Splash Swim program. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week. Get out there, support your local short tracks if you're allowed to this weekend with the rain. And come on back and join us for another great episode of the Racing with Ryan podcast next week. Until then, please take care of yourselves and vroom vroom on.